Hi everyone, my name is Schibi. I apologize for the delay. And we are going to have a shorter session today about the grown-up business analyst, right? What has happened and what we believe is going to happen with the profession. And what we're going to do is that I'm going to first of all tell you a little bit of background, how I got here, and then we're going to go through a quick history of what we know about what happened with business analysis since, well, the 1990s, early 2000s, leading to today. And then we're going to think, what would the mature BA need to do? And what skills we need to bring to the table. Probably going to spend a better time on that part. And then we're going to check if the future is friendly for business analysis. So let's get on our way. How I got here, first of all, I would like to ask people, actually, well, the idea was to have a poll that I didn't post, but I want to ask people to put stuff in the chat, if you don't mind, right? And tell us, what is the main focus of your role as a BA? Is it requirements? Is it more enterprise analysis? Is it more process? Is it technical? And then, well, a little bit of everything was going to be the next one. So if you want to say something about it, because there has been heavy focus in business analysis on requirements, almost forgetting other parts of what it needs to be. So a little bit of history. I was called the BA. My job title was the BA just after the Civil War in the 1990s. And at that time, my boss defined my role as a glorified butler. Right? He said, look, anything that I need, you can do, ranging from requirements to managing projects, to mapping processes, to hosting meetings. Then we started going down a list to arranging food, bringing coffee, and taking minutes, right? But it was really ranging all over the place, right? And almost anytime there was a resource missing from somewhere, I'm not a technical person, but beside pure technical resources, here I came in to fill in. Right, so that was the story of the early days, and at that time, I mean, before the IIBA and what have you, that was commonly the view of what business analysts should do, right? I mean, they're a little bit all over the place, not in a bad place, but rather in a complementary place. It allowed me to develop multiple skills because I touched on every aspect of the organization. Communications, leadership, organizational skills, right? And really, it was a hint for the future of what not only business analysis, in my view, but also my career became, relying on those or hinging on those four pillars, if you like, right? Connecting business analysis, projects, organizational change, agile, and leadership, right? The business analysis and the four others. And no matter what hat I have worn since, I have almost always had to utilize those skills, right? The business analysis skills, a little bit thinking like that. So that's the background, like what has brought me here personally. And my job throughout my career has been earlier days business analyst, since then more combination project management, business analysis, a lot of organizational change, also agile. Fairly early days, actually, before even I realized I was doing agile. I've worked with a variety of organizations, both at teaching and consulting capacities, governments, Canada and the US, United Nations, financials, Canada and the US, RBC, TD on both sides of the border, PNC, American Express, JP Morgan, other organizations in mining and oil and gas, and Marriott, Disney. So companies that many times when I came in at the beginning, I was thinking to myself, oh, now I'm going to see how things get done properly. And then when I was in, I realized that things never get done properly anywhere. So there was an example at Disney. We were doing agile. Really, that's where I was wearing at least 4 of these hats, right? A little bit of a PM, a lot of agile, organizational change, because it was an early thing there, and business analysis, of course, connecting those dots. And we deployed something new, and at that point, it became quiet. Okay, they press the button, everything's good, and then what now? Well, now we sit by the phone and we hope it doesn't ring. That's what now. And then I was thinking to myself, hold on a second, is that how you do things here? Because that's how we used to do things from the basement at the time. So yeah, that's how it is. So yeah, sometimes even the large organizations are acting like that. And it's not a matter of no business analysis and everything, it's a matter of just how things get done. So let's move on. I mean, the history, right? I mean, came in 2003, the IIBA was established in Toronto, and same model as the PMI, the Project Management Institute, but on a smaller scale, and trying to follow the footsteps, but not with that growth that ended up. What happened was that a few years later, the PMI, Project Management Institute, also entered the game with their own certificate, very similar, the PBA, as opposed to the IIBA's CBA. And that growth was sometimes sputtering in not only the volume, how many BAs there were, because there were always BAs, but also in the recognition and awareness, because for people from outside of project management, business analysis is usually associated with finances, business plans, right? The business side, they don't know that actually the BA does very specific things, well, many specific things in the project. So the IIBA really brought the awareness and the structure. You know, what a difference one word made, but remember that when they defined the approach, and we're talking about no longer using the word gathering when it came to requirements, and they used the word elicitation, right? And that really symbolized much more of the essence of business analysis, because the word gathering makes a very dangerous assumption. It assumes that the person that I'm talking to knows what they need, and they're going to tell me that. And then the word elicitation brings us back to reality. It's much more holistic, right? We are engaging, we are talking, we are getting them to realize what the actual need is so they can actually articulate it, so on and so forth, right? So the idea is that we want to make sure that we are doing a good job here, right? The growth has been almost in parallel to Agile, right? Because Agile, as we know it since the manifesto in 2001, has been growing and then rapidly growing. And along the way, not only the business analysis sometimes struggled with the growth, but many Agile practitioners did not see the need for business analysts. I had several situations there where Agile people were almost offended by the idea of introducing a BA. What are you talking about? We are working together with the client. We are connected. Doors are open, right? We don't need that middle person over there. But then, unfortunately, the hard way, we realized that we don't need a BA. There are different schools, right, of, okay, do we need a BA, somebody wearing the hat of a BA with the title, job title, business analyst? That's their job. Or can we share that skill among others, right? Now, sharing the skills with others, for example, with team members and stuff like that. The good news, we share the load, and that is from volume perspective, and also different skills are coming into play. But the main challenges are going to be that we all know what happens when we share stuff. There's always the he said, she said, as opposed to one consistent and cohesive way of doing things. Along the years, there was a struggle in agile environments. Also, we noticed that there was a much heavier focus on requirements, right? The business analyst became associated almost directly with requirements. And then things like process improvement, enterprise analysis related to strategy and business case, these things were not necessarily properly taking place or sufficiently focused by the BA, right? In recent years, there's definitely been a significant improvement among agile practitioners, probably because agile became so much more commonplace that now accepting the existence and, of course, realizing the contribution of the business analyst to the process. A few years back, I had the honor to co-author one of my books, right? One of my 4 books I co-authored with Kevin Aguano, the president of Procept, that hosts this webinar. And it was Agile Business Analysis, that was the book. And even during the collaboration of writing of the book, we had those different schools of thought because Kevin was more, from his agile background, more pro sharing the role, where I was more pro the structure around the role. So let's have a business analyst who can actually consolidate the effort, and then we're going to be able to plan with our time. Either way, the recognition is there, right? The awareness is growing, especially in and among agile practitioners. So right now, what do we have, right? Again, I mean, I would put a poll out there to ask you, right? Which one is more common in your workplace? Would it be the business analyst with a title, or would it be someone who shares, or not rather someone, many people, several people who share that role, right? And try to think really how much, if the role is shared, how much of the time that individual is wearing the hat of the BA versus other hats. So renewed recognition of the role of the BA, right? So we are now in a reality where agile practitioners are accepting it more. Again, with the question if it's a job title or not. Definitely, we see in many places an enhancement in the involvement of the BA, right? So much more involvement and hands-on in organizational change, right? Yes, introducing more process improvement and mapping efficiencies, right? With realization that this role is important, right? But there is still some gap out there. So let's really get to the core. Okay, the mature, right? The grown-up BA, right? Where are we heading right now? The business analysis now is 20 years old as we know it from when the IIBA first introduced this role in a structured way. So a few very important trends to take into account. First of all, much more data, right? If we have been talking about data so far, we're now looking even at more, right? The BA has always been a center of excellence for organization, and yeah, for taking data and converting it to information. Now it's just done on steroids, right? So collect the data, should I say it, analyze it, and then interpret, extrapolate from it, and that is filter the signal from the noise, and then, of course, see patterns and identify trends, right? One of the main challenges, especially this day and age, is the volume of data. Sorry about that, the volume of data that we have, and the growing almost sense of urgency around the need to convert that data into relevant information, and of course based on the needs of the various stakeholders involved, right? One of the ways to do it is through the ability to tell a story, bring back the BAs need to shine as far as communication skills, right? Organizational skills, putting things together, right? Telling a story. And along with it, the BA needs to have, it's pretty much a must, to have a strong command in visualization tools, right? The ability to actually tell a story with the data and convert it to relevant information based on the stakeholders' needs, right? By filtering and enhancing and accentuating certain parts, right? At the end of the day, the whole idea is to provide more decision support to stakeholders, right? So they can make informed decisions. Again, decision support. Remember, it's not the role of the BA. Gone pretty much are the days where some agile projects see the BA as the product owner, right? The BA doesn't have the clout, doesn't have the seniority, doesn't have the context. The idea is that we want the BA to, we want the other stakeholders to know the place of the BA. The BA definitely works very closely with the product owner, right? Sometimes serving as a second set of eyes, but it's a product owner who is the single ringable neck as far as where the buck stops. Did we say agile? Right, so agile is not going away. There are varying levels of success. Again, you do it right, you get the results. You don't do it right, like anything else, right? But we have to keep that in mind, that agile is here to stay in one form or another. And with that, we got to make sure there is a place for the BA in the agile way of doing things in the organization, right? We have been noticing a lot of, I'm going to say, reconciliation, right? Accepting the BA into the agile project. Remember, in the agile environment, generally it's based on the model, if you like, the idea that requirements change on a regular basis, right? And we need to make sure that we are able to address that. This is where the BA is really doing their stuff in shorter cycles, but constantly. I noticed many times when we go back to stakeholders one sprint or one iteration at a time to engage them again about the upcoming detailed requirements for the subsequent, for the next iteration, they tell me, did we do it before? I said, well, we did before for the previous iteration, now there's a new iteration. So the constantly changing requirements is about also setting expectations and ensuring that we are engaging properly with the stakeholders and that they give us the time of day to manage those cycles. A different type of stakeholder engagement and expectations management, right? So remember the holding back from doing detailed planning and detailed requirements when we're early on, especially in iteration 0, and then of course having those short cycles, right? And remembering that every agile environment is different. So there is, because of the heavy aspect of adaptation and almost customization of agile, almost specific to one environment at a time, we need the BA to be able to bridge and actually bring it to play a lot faster. I've been hearing from some agile, from some practitioners, that agile, because especially in certain environments, because of the heavy focus on the ceremonies and the artifacts and what have you, many times some stakeholders claim that it stifles creativity, right? It stifles the team's creativity because the team is so consuming by the ceremonies and the cadence that is trying to be created. And once again here, the BA definitely is the person to, it's not to step up, but to bring everyone back together to the focus on creativity as well. Right, but at the end of the day, we, I believe that success trumps agile, right? So our goal in life is not to be agile, our goal in life is to be successful. If agile is the means, it's good. If agile is the way, it's good. But on the other hand, with strong business analysis, awareness in the organization, in the project, we're going to be able to actually utilize the best type of agile, more or less, right? And it's not about how agile we are, it's about how successful. What else? Hey, communications. It was about time, right? So what's going on with communications? Definitely a very important skill. Probably, yes, the most important skill, not only for the BA, but also, of course, for the project manager, right? It's always been a key role for the BA, but now it's time to further sharpen communications and facilitate that process among team members. The need to sharpen communication is well overdue and has been overdue for a long time. However, since the corona, going virtual and then, of course, the hybrid, we notice how much more potent and urgent that need is. We got to admit, most of us are not good communicators. We don't know how to filter the signal from the noise. Communication has way too much redundancies, lacking focus. Like we call meetings, people call meetings and tell me, oh, we need a 2-hour meeting. So first of all, I'm not coming, but why 2 hours? What is it that we're going to do in 2 hours that we can't do in 20 minutes, 40 minutes? Right? So the need to sharpen communications, again, at all levels. We have the project manager who needs to also be the way, but the business analyst really on a day-to-day basis in the trenches needs to be able to focus on it. Also, be a master collaborator. Right? I mean, remember, the original role is that bridge, not the translator, the bridge, making sure that the business, the customer, the technical, and any other stakeholder, they're all on the same page. Generally, many of them are not going to make an effort to go on the same page, right? Our job is to ensure that that bridge is paved, right? And that collaboration prevails, because without collaboration, we're going to have problems all around. And then, of course, that's ever so important skill, not only the ability to listen and to hear what actually people say, because we are not supposed to be biased and what have you, but mainly it's the ability to actively, to demonstrate active listening, demonstrate active listening. The ability to take the information that is given to us, engage, process it, and then not reiterate it, but rather paraphrase it to make sure that the meaning is better understood, right? So very important, not only talk the talk, but also walk that talk. And even though we are not the senior stakeholder and we are not leading the project, we are usually the engine that drives it right to success. And then, well, we talked about data a little bit, it comes in artificial intelligence, right? So we don't have to be super technical, but you see more and more BAs getting involved in having an impact on automation, on data collection analysis. We talked data, right? And focus more on value-add activities, how the automation fits in with the people, with the strategy. Remember, so many times we go to places, whether it's a service provider, any food outlet or something, we go to places and we realize that it's almost as if there was no BA. It was not designed with the customer in mind. I mean, I have plenty of examples. I mean, well, all call centers, most call centers are designed for the operator in mind. It means that if you call into your favorite telecom provider with 2 problems, you will go on 2 different queues and you will wait double the time. Why? Because it's convenient for them to train people only on one area. Right? Again, it's not designed for the customer. I mean, I take an organization, few organizations actually tailored toward the client. Like, for example, American Express, you dial in, and in 99% of the cases, the person who picks up the phone is the person who can help you with anything that you like. But then you get what you pay for, right? You pay more, and that's why it's accepted less. I mean, those of us who live in Toronto, I mean, we all know that Union Station, downtown Toronto, or Pearson Airport, notorious worst airport in the world, right? They were not designed with travelers in mind. There was no user experience over there. There was no voice of the customer over there, right? The people who designed those places never traveled. They never took a train if it's Union Station, and never took an airplane if it's Pearson Airport. This is not because of a BA, but probably the presence of a BA, a skilled BA in those projects could have brought some more awareness to those ever so important things like addressing the customer needs. Right? I can keep talking about, again, how bad in every aspect of the word Pearson Airport is, right? How you are never where you need to be, etc., etc. So artificial intelligence, again, when we try to automate things and we try to actually, well, get people out of the process, it has to be done in a way that works, because with artificial intelligence, there's nobody to talk to, right? So again, similar to self-driving cars, sorry for the typo over there, right? We need to make sure that the BA is there in the design process, not because they are an expert in design, not because the BA is an expert in any technical aspect, but because the BA is an expert in connecting all these skills together. So even more so than it has been so far. And keep in mind that the way things are going, it will probably lead to expanding the role of the BA, right? Requirements and the focus on requirements is not going away, right? There will be more process improvements. Solution assessment and testing involvement not going away. It's a strategy and a question mark because it's less common, but again, a part of formulating strategy and big picture enterprise analysis. Remember, always being the voice of reason and always remaining objective. And another thing that we saw growing prior to the corona, and then it kind of like stopped, but probably that need will come back, the voice of the customer. That's user experience, right? Making sure that we hear, this is something that precedes the requirements, right? Before the requirements, we need to know what is it that the customer needs. And as much as possible, again, I mean, it's going to be enabled from higher up, it's the BA who will actually do it. So where are we going from here, right? Well, let's see. We're going to have a few pages here, actually, a few slides that talk about any key skills and competencies in no particular order whatsoever that we need to consider and take into account because they're coming. Some of these things have been, some of these things will grow, will be introduced, or will require us to enhance the way we do things. Problem solving, or rather problem definition and solving. This is not new, right? But more and more, because of the high volume of work, the stress, the pressure, the constant change, problems, when people face problems, quite often they don't know what to do. Quite often it's the waving of the arms. Oh, well, there's a problem, right? And then the freezing, right? We don't know how to handle that. So definitely, the BA needs to sharpen their ability to, the BAs sharpen their ability to define problems properly, and then, of course, to propose solutions. Remember, our job is, well, on a day-to-day basis, it's to solve small problems, but then when again, it's out of our, how should I say, out of our, beyond our pay grade or our authority, it's about presenting the possible options for solutions. So keeping it together, right, when no one else does, right? More and more, people ask me, okay, so how do we handle it? How do we do it? And the secret really is, okay, be well planned, well organized, well prepared for the ongoing stuff so we can keep our heads above water. And when a problem introduces itself, this is our time to shine by being organized, structured, methodical, and think about the best possible options. Of course, business savvy, right? Big picture, take into account. It's not only the project, we have operations, we have customers, we have big picture, we have technical, we have people in general, right? So making sure these things are all gelling. And then we have a few types of thinking that more and more become important. Strategic thinking, in no particular order. Strategic thinking, again, it's not about strategy, it's about the big picture, how it connects to the big picture. Creative thinking, not about artistic creative, but rather about thinking outside the box, right? When we are all stuck in the box, we need to shine and come back with, what about this? Propose the idea, cause and effect. System thinking. System thinking connected a little bit to strategic, right? But again, the cause and effect, the action reaction. So try to understand, when we do this, what's going to happen with the consequence, with the result. We have analytical thinking, right? Capturing all these things, the ability to take a look at all the data and the noise that is out there and make some sense out of it. And critical thinking, right? Critical thinking, respectfully, right? But the ability to ask and to change something that is becoming increasingly more difficult this day and age, because in many situations, people say that you cannot ask questions. They say that the science is settled. They say that it's not open for discussion. It's wrong, right? We got to be able to actually respectfully ask and challenge, right? And see, right? Apply all these types of thinking, and then see what is the situation, what would be the best possible approach to it. More stability and adaptability, right? Towards it almost collide or clash sometimes, right? Heavy reliance on the BA due to more changes. This is the stability, right? We need to provide the credibility and provide the answers that we need, right? And at the same time, be able to quickly adjust on our feet when the changing needs take a turn, right? Or when the reality takes a turn on us. And at the same time, patience. What was it? About 15 years ago, I came in through a consulting firm to do a project, to work on a project in a large bank in Canada. And when I was interviewed, because I had both skills to be a PM and a BA, I asked what my choice was, and my reaction, as usual, was to answer the question. And I asked, what's the scope? So my would-be manager said, look, if you're going to be the BA, you're going to be here for the long term. You're an island of stability, right? You're not going to get any glory, but on the other hand, the blame will not reach you. On the other hand, if you're going to be a PM, the opposite, right? I mean, they told me that for the longest time, they have not had any PMs who lasted more than 6 months in that department, right? So you get the glory, but also when there are problems, you're shown the door. That was the scoop, right? So as a BA, we need more patience. And not only the patience, but also be able to facilitate that with the relationship with the PM, because the PM wants to move faster in certain directions, and we need to make sure that we are keeping the big picture in mind, right? Also keep in mind, a lot of digging, a lot of time invested, and it's going to take time to show the results, and we got to realize that we need to have patience for that, right? It will take us time to build a reputation that will be sufficient for people to actually listen to us, right? And then usually somebody else is going to take the glory and take the fame out of it. But if we're persistent and objective, eventually our voice is going to become a credible voice. We're going to be viewed as a subject matter expert. Again, not a technical type, not a product type, but rather big picture type of subject matter expertise. And most of organizational skills, right? We have multiple conflicting priorities. Our job is to put it together. Our job is to try to do the right thing, right? And try to reason it properly, right? Those multiple priorities are going to clash. We're going to have multiple stakeholders breathing down our necks, asking for things that conflict with each other. Our job is to keep it together. Right now, the word priority here is a little bit problematic, and many times, again, that onus comes from the PM to the BA. Our job is not to prioritize. The priorities are given to us by our stakeholders, right? Priorities associated with the word importance, but then often we use it also in a slightly different context, right? Priority is also about sequencing and putting things in order. right? So we need to be able, when it comes to requirements, for example, we need to say, okay, what's the business value? That's pure priority. And then what are the technical considerations that will allow us to recommend the different sequencing? This is dependencies. And then further sequencing through any other logical groupings like resource availability, minimal feature set, or product viability, best practices, right? So we really need to help others figure it out. And then into that, we have to incorporate urgencies, right? I mean, generally, every time anyone comes to me, it starts with it's urgent. And then, of course, they enhance it. It's super urgent, it's very urgent, it's golden urgent and platinum urgent and stuff like that. Every time it's being enhanced. But the bottom line, we need to figure out what urgent is more urgent. And once again, have a rubric, have some sort of system. So, for example, how do we determine if this urgent or that urgent is more important? Well, a few considerations. Time, right? When's the deadline? The impact of doing impact or not doing areas of impact. Who's involved? And also the chance that we have as a team to actually finish this over that. Because if something is more urgent, but we cannot finish it on time or do it properly, versus the less urgent item that we actually make gain with, maybe we can make another recommendation. This is organizational skills. Most people don't have strong organizational skills. Coming in with those not only will help us, but will also help them, which will further help the cause. Another thing here, leadership. Leadership, where is it coming? We are not the formal leader, but remember, in order to be a leader, you don't need to be appointed, you need to emerge. So here, we need to emerge as a leader, right? Being able to influence because we don't have authority, being able to motivate even when things look a little gloomy, right? We gotta be a thought leader, right? With that big picture and that critical thinking that we bring to the table, right? Be a subject matter expert on objectivity instead on the general idea as opposed to the siloed thinking, right? And also be able to get buy-in from our stakeholders because that's the only way we can actually achieve it. Be a team player. We heavily rely on the team. We know that. Be proactive, right? With the requirements, because a heavy focus on requirements, quite often we are not very proactive. So we need to be more proactive. Proactive as in preventive by nature, right? And then apply a few tools, right? First of all, meaningful stakeholder analysis, right? Understand what's going on for us, not only for the project managers, stakeholders, but for the requirements for any business analysis work. Organize what is expected and set those expectations through a responsibility summit matrix, known as a RACI chart. I wrote there the C-RAID, C-R-A-I-D. Right? These are the main drivers: constraints, which are limitations; risk, what could possibly go wrong with what we're doing or with the actions that we're taking; assumptions, right? These precede risk and issues. Assumptions are just placeholders that need to be addressed by a certain point, so we got to make peace with those issues, right? What current issues we are facing. Remember, risks are in the future, issues are now. And then, of course, dependencies. So when people tell us it depends, we need to know what it depends on, whether it's a deliverable of some sort, whether it's a resource, or whether it's a sign of a decision. And then establish those strong relationships, both with the team members that we work with the PM and with the product owner or the sponsor. It's key to establish those rules of engagement, know where I end and they begin, and know the level of involvement that I will have in their decision. And the last one, never forget quality, because many people do forget quality. There's something called cost of quality, right? Cost of quality, philosophically, it doesn't cost because whatever we invest in, we will benefit from it later, but we need to know where the money goes because there's prevention costs, right? Doing the right thing the first time. There's the appraisal cost, quality assurance, quality control, process and testing. And then there's the failure cost. And these costs, from prevention through appraisal to internal failure and external failure, these things grow exponentially. And we need to make sure that we bring that awareness to those around us. This is not up to us. Conformance to requirements, fitness for use, these are the two sides, two sub-definitions, if you like. Conformance to requirements, do the thing that we're supposed to do. Fitness for use, make sure that it's doing, at the end, what it's supposed to do as far as performance. Make sure that quality and the team, right? So there is a rule from Deming that talked about the 85-15 rule. The 85% of the responsibility and quality is on the management, 15 is on the team. This is not to shirk responsibility and say it's not up to us, but we need to actually bring that awareness and make sure that the quality is set up at a higher level. Yes, remember, influence and buy-in. And then, of course, the project manager is in charge of the trade-offs in the project. We're in charge of feeding the right information to the project manager. So we need to understand the context around those trade-offs. Most of what we've been talking about is a lot of the same, right? So really moving forward, the pace and magnitude of change are growing, and they're going to continue to grow, and we need to adapt, because otherwise we're going to fall behind, right? More skills related to data and to artificial intelligence. Of course, more concepts are coming into play that will make us the well-rounded player that we need to be: agile, change, project management, and leadership. To the other hand, you see that it's more of the same, but it's more volume-wise and more intensity-wise, right? It's kind of like BA on steroids, right? And maybe with time, there's going to be a little bit more awareness from the outside what the role of the BA really is and the value that it brings to the table. Because not having a BA will save upfront the direct cost of employing the BA, and will cost us much more greatly later when the product is not doing what it's supposed to do. So, of course, there's always time for questions. And if there are no questions, that's also the time to thank you. This is just a picture of pictures of the covers of the books that I wrote, and this is my contact information. So the time is closing in on the bottom of the hour, and I wanted to thank you all for being here, and thank you for having me.